Welcome everyone. My name is Mary Feeney and I'll be your moderator today. Thank you so much for joining us here at Netcom Learning, a market leader in promoting lifelong learning, training, and talent development solutions. We are very excited to host today's webinar, The 5 Most Common Cyber Threats and Their Prevention. Presenting today's topic is Jason Ferron. Jason is a talented and valued Microsoft certified trainer with over 32 years of IT experience, along with web development and design of infrastructure for companies such as AT&T, Sports Illustrated, and Toys R Us. He also holds several IT certifications such as Cisco, CCNA, and CCDA, Security Plus, MCDBA, and MCSE, to name a few. Jason's focus is on finding solutions to problems and applying process to solve them. He instructs professionals in the skills to manage the process and meet goals, which makes him a respected trainer at Netcom Learning. Please bear in mind that this is an overview of a very robust topic. We offer a collection of technical and business courses that can be tailored towards your specific requirements. If you are interested in a further discussion, you can make an appointment with our learning consultants through our website at www.netcomlearning.com. Today's session is also being recorded, so you will get free access to the recording in the next 24 hours via email. Let's take a couple of minutes to know a bit about Netcom Learning and a few of the information security courses we have lined up. Netcom Learning helps customers build innovative learning organization by achieving a smarter workforce, adapting to change, and driving growth. We do this with a broad catalog of offerings, developing customized learning plans, and our global delivery capabilities. Since 1998, we have been empowering organizations with our managed learning services to help them reach optimal performance results and address challenges. We have 9 practice areas in which we specialize. They encompass people, process, and technology training. Today's presentation is from the security practice area. Netcom Learning offers a comprehensive training portfolio for cybersecurity courses. Here are some of the upcoming classes on our public schedule. First on the list is Easy Council's Certified Ethical Hacker, which starts on March 19th. We have the CAP certification course, which is also on the 19th. We have the CISSP training course that's scheduled on the 16th of April. We have the CYSA, or the Cybersecurity Analyst certification, that's scheduled on April 30th. We have Security Plus Bootcamp, which is scheduled on the 30th of April as well. We have the CASP class, or the CompTIA Advanced Security Practitioner, which is on May 7. And lastly, we have the Certified Information Privacy Professional U.S. Government, CIPP/G prep course, which is scheduled on May 24. We can also deliver private training to your teams, of which the learning plan can be customized to the specific needs of that audience. These offerings can be found with a simple search on our website at netcomlearning.com. Now, going back to the presentation, why should you attend this webinar? Cyber threats are increasing at an alarming rate every year, and the ability for organizations to defend against full-scale distributed attacks quickly and effectively is becoming more and more difficult. To be safe and secure on today's internet, organizations must learn to become more automated. This webinar will cover cybersecurity threats, its type, impact on the organization, and skills required to help secure that organization. Now, I'll just give you a quick overview of the logistics before we get started. To start with, you have the option to adjust the window size to your liking. Simply hit the escape key and find the zoom button on the top left corner of your GoToWebinar viewer. Everyone has been muted except for our presenter. Please feel free to submit any questions you have for the presenter here in the questions pane, and we will address them at the end of the session. And now I'll pass this over to Jason to present today's topic. Let me just make you the presenter, Jason. Give me a second. Jason, you're on.
So, folks, today I'm going to explain that all of the topics I'm going to talk about today, I could talk about for half an hour or for weeks. But this is kind of an overview and a feel. And when they asked me to do this, I started thinking about what are some of the threats that you and I deal with day in and day out. And that's what I'm going to try and address today with us in this presentation. So here's an example of one of the biggest threats that you have in your organization. It's spearfishing. I think everybody knows what phishing is. That's where we get an email saying, hey, there's a problem with your AT&T credit card. And you go, but I don't have an AT&T credit card, because they mass mail to everyone. Spearfishing is an attack that's working over and over again because it looks like it's coming from the inside of your organization. Here's examples of at Berkeley EDU where there's letters from the HR department to somebody at inside of Berkeley. Click here to do your HR. So here what we've got is we have an example of a spearfishing attack. And what spearfishing attacks are it looks like a legitimate email is coming from inside of your organization. Imagine, if you would, you got an email from HR saying, click here to verify that your financial records are right. Or here's an example where, hey, it looks like you signed into a website. Please verify that you've done this. These are not legitimate requests, but employees and users don't think that way and will click and lose credentials. Since spearfishing today is one of the easiest ways a hacker can penetrate your network and get confidential data, there has to be some fixes for it. So let me give you an example. One of the solutions that we can do to solve this very easily is to train the users. End user training is critical in security. Training the users what to do and what not to do. Having the users say, hello help desk, hello IT, I think there's a problem here, instead of A, clicking on it, or B, throwing it out, is really important. Because if you're sitting as a help desk person, and I'll do the example, Ben is my help desk guy, and I pick up the phone and say, hey Ben, I'm seeing this kind of problem, Ben can immediately send that email to other people, or he can administratively control at the firewall or at the edge, filter those type of attacks and block them. But if we don't teach our users about this, they will click on things because they don't necessarily think. I joke about it all the time where I say I've got a good friend of mine whose wife is computer illiterate by design. She doesn't think, she just clicks. And he spends all the time cleaning up the messes. One of the other things that you can do as an IT professional is you can build digital certificates and enable that inside of email. So now we digitally sign our emails. Now when an employee opens up an email, if he doesn't see the little shield that says this message was digitally signed from another employee inside the organization, they can say, wait a minute, boss, I have a problem here. It looks like somebody's being phony baloney or trying to get my credentials. Digital certificates, easy way to solve a problem. It helps with the term that we use in security called non-repudiation. I know you sent me the message, therefore it's you. How many of you, if you got an email from your boss or from HR saying, warning, because of an impending snowstorm, the office will be closed tomorrow, would say, great, I'm not coming to work. How do you know that message actually came from HR or from your boss? With digital signatures, you'd know that. And that kind of gives the message. The next thing that we have to worry about, and a lot of you probably have dealt with right now, is the whole conversation of ransomware. This is really ugly. Once again, end users clicking on something. I'm not going to say an IT person hasn't done this because I know people have. And what it starts doing is encrypting all the files. It starts with the files on the workstation. Then it sees any file share, any devices connected to the network. It starts encrypting all those files. And then after a couple of minutes, it'll pop up and say, hey, you have to pay us X to get your data back. Ransomware has been around. There was a small little hit of it 3 or 4 years ago. Now there are over 100 variations of ransomware. Some of them that will attack your backup software, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Once again, some simple solutions here. Train the users to think before they click. No, you didn't win the lottery, don't click here, et cetera. Also, there are some things that you can do as an IT professional. For example, you can strip out at the firewall things like executable, comms, scripts, VBA scripts. You can remove those from the users before they get to the user's workstations. If you're using Exchange, if you're using mail servers, there are lots of technologies that can do this. Also, and this is an important one, and I say this a lot, you need to verify that you have good backups. I always tell the story. Many years ago, I was doing some work and I needed to get the backup, and I, tested 20, 30% of the restores. How many of you online have done 100% restore of a backup to verify that the backup fully works? I'm not talking about 20 or 30% of it, all of it. And I'll ask this question, that's an important question to ask. How often do you back up? Do you back up your users' data once a week, once a day, once an hour? What do they need, and how much time can they lose if their data was lost? I'm not even going to joke and ask the question, when was the last time everybody on this phone backed up your own workstations at home? Because a couple of you be smirking and smiling going, yeah, Jay, okay, you got me there. It only takes a second to get infected. And when you get infected, you have really fundamentally 2 choices. Actually 3. Choice 1, pay. Choice B, how long is it going to take to restore? Choice C, oh, I don't have a really good backup, start from scratch. I joke about it. If you're married with kids and you lose all the pictures of your kids' photos because you didn't back them up, go to a jewelry store if you're a guy, buy the jewelry store, and then beg for forgiveness for the rest of your life from your wife. You need to be backing up, and you need to make sure that your backups work properly. Another topic that we like to talk about is, how do you detect intrusions? Who did what, and how did they do it? In the United States today, the average breach takes anywhere from 100 to 280 days for an organization to find out they've been breached. I know my good friend Bren, who's on the phone right now, is not going to let me stay in his wallet for 280 days, but there are people who go inside the organization. So I'm going to ask a couple of questions, and it really comes down to this conversation. Do you know right now what's running in your network? Can you tell me what services are running? Can you tell me what ports are open? Can you tell me what protocols are being used? If you can't answer those 3 questions, then you don't know when a hacker comes in what they've changed. And if you don't know what they've changed, then you have no security. Now, I want to give this as an example by doing a simple exercise I do. A lot of times I'm brought in to do some pen testing, penetration testing. And people say, well, we have intrusion detection, intrusion prevention systems, so we'll protect against you. And I go, great, outstanding. By the way, what technology does that use? And they go, well, that's running on TCP/IP. I said, great. I'm going to load up my laptop using an old Novell protocol. Anyone remember IPX, SPX? I'm not going to load up my laptop using TCP/IP. So because I'm not using TCP/IP, your intrusion detection systems don't even know I'm there because I'm not even using the language that your IDS is looking for. Now, I'm going to just sit there and wait until one of your printers does a service protocol announcement, a SAP. Hi, I'm a printer, I'm over here. Because I know all of us on the phone went to all the printers that we have in our environment and we disabled all the unnecessary services we don't need on them. Well, it sounds good, but that's not a true statement. So I find this printer, this HP or this Brother or whatever printer it is, And now I do a buffer overflow attack to the printer. Oh, wait a minute. We don't have any logging on the printer. We've never patched the printer. So any inherent weaknesses in the printer are there. And I grab some good credentials from a valid user. Now I log back onto the network using TCP/IP as a valid user with valid credentials. I'm on your network. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go look for services I can go attack. That's from inside the building. Think about the outside of the building. What services are running? Do you have an SNMP running on your router? And if you do, why is it on your public interface? What ports? Using tools like Nmap will help you understand. Are you looking at your logs regularly to see what's happening on your network? Are you auditing the permissions? Are you looking at your users? There's a statement that for those of you who know me have heard before. We don't give permissions to users. We put users into groups, and we take those roles and apply permissions to them. You need to get to roles-based authentication, where a group of users all have the same permissions. And then you can audit that role to see what they're doing. Now, there are some tools out there that are absolutely helpful tools as a professional that you want to look at. For example, Microsoft has the PowerShell Desired Configuration State tool. It is a great tool. It'll let you go out and set a configuration setting and then validate that all of the Xboxes or what boxes, servers or workstations that you have are all configured the same way. Building a baseline is the first step. Obviously, patching and managing the patches and permissions are important. But if you don't know what you have, you don't know what changed. Protecting confidential information. This is where one of these spaces where, because of the regulations either in the European Union right now or New York State 500, NYS 500, and lots of laws like this are coming around. So I thought I would spend some minutes talking about protecting confidential information. And if you think about advanced persistent threats, that's where somebody gets in and they stay on your network, and there are lots of them. It really comes out to privacy. Somebody stealing private information, whether they're employees, whether they're partners or customers, it's because people aren't thinking about protecting data. Today, most companies think about this. I have a fence around my building. I have a really good firewall, therefore I'm protected. And I will tell you as a security professional, no, you're not. How many of you have spent the time to say, wait a minute, stop. What's the most critical data I have? Let's protect that first, and this, and this, and this, and this. Instead of looking at a big net around the building, protecting data. And I want to show you that by talking about the conversation here of how we look at data in our business, how we protect the data wherever it is. Okay? And I'm going to explain that with a couple of technologies that are built in that you probably have, but you've never ever used. So the first is RMS, or Rights Management Services. Now, just so that you know, this is something from Microsoft, and for those of you going, yeah, but it's brand new, it's been in Office since Office 97, okay? What this allows you to do is to take a document, a Word document, Excel, a PowerPoint, and then there are add-ons to add other types of documents to this. But I'll just do the basic Office documents right now. And have what we call an author, that's somebody who creates the document, apply permissions to it. Those permissions are applied to that document with specific things that the person opening up the document or the people who have rights to open up the document can do, and the author is in charge of it. Let me kind of explain it this way. So I, as the information officer, create a document. I want to send a document to Mary. It's a document about Ben, and it's about Ben. He is a mess up, and he always messes up on work, and I don't want Ben to know it. So I take this document, and I say that only Mary can read this document. And I even say only Mary can read this Word document. She can't print it. She can't cut and copy and paste out of the document. And oh, by the way, the document only lives for a day. When I create that document, and I put that information in, That information, that basic information is in Word. But then what I do is I take that document and I send it fundamentally by using the public key of an RMS server. In this case, we're using Azure's RMS server. And I encrypt it using the public key of the Azure RMS server.
Give her a call and leave her a message, so.
Recipient. I give it to them on a USB stick. I give it to them on a DVD. I give it to them in an email. I send it to a Mac. I send it to a PC. I send it to I don't care how you get the file to them. When the recipient goes to open up the message, the first thing it does, it says, well, wait a minute, this message or this data is encrypted using the public key of an RMS server. Go to the RMS server. The RMS server uses its private key to open up the message. It looks and says, okay, is the recipient valid to read this message? If the answer is yes, the RMS server encrypts the message again with the public key of the recipient. The recipient uses its private key to open up the message, and then the rules of whether they can cut, copy, paste, or print it go into effect. By the way, we can do the exact same thing through an Exchange server to protect it, and we can also apply rules to it to say, well, wait a minute, we're not going to allow to follow, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, when we send that message out. So don't forward that message. We can do the same thing inside of SharePoint. So here we can say, for example, and we have a drop-down box that says, this is company confidential. Only the people in the company can look at this document. And you can make customized drop-downs to say employees only, HR only, finance only, partners only, for public use. You can choose what protections you want. The next thing that you can do, and this is really a powerful thing, is that we can start classifying data. So I want to ask the question here as a generic question. I'm a really good network admin. So the first thing I do is I create roles-based authentication so that I only allow certain users access to certain file shares. And because certain users should only be able to read the data, I only give them read privileges. Okay. But I want to ask everybody on the phone a question, on this webinar a question. Could a user who has read access copy a file to their workstation? Yeah. And if they copied it to their workstation, could they open up the file and email it to somebody? Could they open up the file and do a save as? Yes, yes, and yes. That doesn't sound like a good solution. So there's something inside of Windows called direct access controls. Okay, we also know this is conditional access, where we can do some other features here. So first of all, what data do I have? Who should access it? How do I protect the data? And who has access and how? And here's the way it works. First thing you can do is say, I only want people in finance to be able to look at the finance share. Okay. Oh, but only when they're sitting at their desk. If they're anywhere else in the building, they can't look at the finance share. By starts right then and there, we've changed the equation of what we think of access controls to be today. Second thing, I only want them to be able to do it during a certain period of time. Oh, wait a minute. And I do want applications to be able to talk with it. So modify the file. Take that file. I'm going to classify the file with what it is. I can use third-party tools to do this. And then I save that classification. So, for example, let's say it's a PII document where it's got personal identified information on it. I can protect that document and save it that way. So anytime somebody's using a PII document, it'll always have the same rules to it. So first, I've classified the folder and or the data. So I'm going to play the game here. I have users who are in finance. Their clearance is high. I have people in claims. And I can make an access policy of what those permissions are. And then once they have it, they get those accesses. Now here's where it gets to be a lot of fun. So after I've created all these rules, I can remove the administrator from the finance share. When a user tries to read a file that they don't have permission to, it'll say, I'm sorry, you don't have the right access or the right claim. Audit log. It will then send a message to the user saying, hey user, and this is on Windows 8 or higher, Windows 10 it really works well. And what it'll do is to say, I'm sorry, you don't have access to this. If you think you should have access to this, click and fill out this information. That information can get forwarded to the data owner. That's the person who owns that finance share. Audit entry 2. The data owner gets it. They get whatever approvals they need. The data owner then can pass to IT, please give this individual permission to the share, audit log again, and now they can go in. So I can audit when the user connected, how they connected, when they got permission, how they got permission, who gave them permission, and my IT people still not in it. So think about this from a really good point of view. I'm sitting at my environment, I'm sitting there working, a hacker breaks into my network. Can the hacker get to the finance share? Well, what's the hacker going to do? They're going to try and represent themselves or gain the access as an administrator on my network. Well, now with conditional access that we've just set up and conditional controls that we've just set up, that administrator who goes to knock on that application, guess what's going to happen to them? They're going to get a message saying, I'm sorry, you've been blocked. Would you like to give yourself permission? And when they do that, all these audit logs are going to start spinning off. So at this point right now, I know that somebody is trying to get permission who shouldn't have permission to a file share that I wanted them to have permission to. At which point, guess what? Theoretically, if you're looking at your logs, you know there's a problem going on. So dynamic access control, we can add on top of that mix, we can add rights management. So we can say that there's a rule when the file contains the word confidential or lives in an X share or SharePoint, when the user creates that with that context in it, then dynamic RMS access controls will go in and say, oh, I found the word confidential, and immediately start putting the RMS protections in place to protect that document so that that document is protected accordingly. For example, let's take the game here. So Billy Bob is in HR. Billy Bob is working on a confidential medical record for somebody in the U.S. Oh, wait a minute, it's a medical record. You work in the hospital, so it's medical records. That's a text, and it's a Word document. He's sending to a lawyer. Medical records, guess what? We need to protect it because it's electronic patient data. We put the right label on it. As soon as Billy Bob puts that in the file share or goes to save it, RMS goes, warning, warning, warning. This is an RMS document. We need to protect this document. And RMS in the background will start encrypting that document and protecting that document. Now, some of you will say, well, what if Billy Bob leaves, or what if something happens? There is a way, as an administrator, to seize and to open up RMS documents that have been protected. Audit logs are all over the place when you do this, so that you can verify or save a document that's there. I have a company who's a gold company. Every morning, they send out an RMS document. Not because they need the encryption on it, but they send out an RMS document every morning that says the price of gold today is this, and it expires at the end of the day. So they know that all of their gold buying people are buying gold at a certain price every single day, and they're not using yesterday's prices. This two pieces of technology, dynamic access control, followed by rights management services, is a really, really strong way to protect your infrastructure. But wait, there's more. inside of Windows Server, there's a service called FSRM, File System Resource Management. And what FSRM allows you to do is to say, I want to query my file shares to find certain kinds of data. So I'm Billy Bob. I'm back as a network administrator. Users have been putting stuff all over the place. And now I have a project to go find PII information, go find financial information, go find credit card numbers and social security numbers. Tell me how you do that today. Pretty ugly. Well, with FSRM, I can go and say, find me these kinds of data. And because this is Windows, we can use PowerShell. Find me this kind of data, and then save it as an Excel spreadsheet where the files are, or move them to a share, and then apply rights management to the share and dynamic access control to the share. By the way, File System Resource Management has one other feature that I really love. And I always like talking about this because it's one of those things that you need to think about. How many of you on this call have not bought new storage recently? Oh, we keep buying storage because it gets bigger and bigger and bigger. I don't care whether you're buying it in the cloud or you're buying it on your prem. When was the last time we deleted stuff? There is a feature in File System Resource Management that's a really, really good feature to know. And what that feature is it allows you as a user, i.e. admin, to do the following statement. Find me all files, and I'll use the example, who haven't been used in 7 years with SID unknown. Now, for those of you who don't remember what a SID is, the SID is the unique identifier, the GUID, the globally unique identifier of a user. If we have a file that says SID unknown, that means that you deleted that user. So fundamentally, what I just said to FSRM is, find me all files that are 7 years old where the users left the company. I wonder how many of those files you have on your network that you can either A, archive, or B, delete. But right now, what are you doing? You're backing them up every single day. Another example of using a built-in Windows tool as a security tool for yourself. Now, once we figured out what that is, once we've made those classifications, RMS is going to go there, take those files on the servers, encrypt them, so no matter what somebody does, if somebody picks up the file and copies it to a USB stick, if they copy it to a DVD, if they email it, unless the person on the other end can authenticate and has the right permissions, RMS is not going to let them open up that file. That's real strong encryption. And what's nice about it is it's transparent to the end user who gets the file and the author who creates the file, or the technology, in this case, dynamic access control using rights management, where I'm filtering on a specific word, does it, is a very easy thing to implement and makes it a lot easier for people to do it. There are third-party tools that put graphical user interfaces in front of this, but this is something you could do yourself with some training. So if you think about it, as I've talked about this stuff for now for a little bit of time, in reality, the first thing we can do is start classifying our data. And if you don't have classifications for data, why not? Now, if you're going to build classifications for data, this is very important. Please listen to this part. It's absolutely important that you get the business involved. Don't do this as an IT project. Let the business tell you what their classifications are, because they're the ones who have to do it. Don't get crazy with classifications. I went to a company that had 140 classifications. Do you think anybody could remember the difference between this one and this one? At bare minimum, watch this. Company confidential, company financial, public. There's 3. That's simple, okay? Obviously, maybe I want for the sales group only or for the research group only. You might add it. Maybe you want something for executives only. You want to get some names, but you want the business to help you. Don't get stuck with this one. Well, we have financial, but we have financial sales, we have financial marketing. No, it's financial. The tag may be the same, but the groups who can open up that message are different. So, for example, in my organization, I have financial, and the salespeople can put their financial quota and Excel spreadsheets in financial, but only the salespeople can see them. Whereas the accounting people can look at financial records that only they can see, where the C-level people have financial records that they can view. Once again, transparent to the users. The author, and you can set up the template so it's a default template for the user who's creating the data, is there. The user can either manually tag the data, or you can programmatically design and configure applications that will put the tagging on it. And you can tag by application. Then you build central access policies based on those classifications. What do you want to do? What conditions do you want to do? What tags do you want to do? What kind of file types? Remember, this is not just about Office documents. And then you want to, this is very important, you want to spend the time, once you've identified who's the data owners, what's the process if somebody goes to approach to use a document or a share that they don't have permission to, how do they get it? I keep using the word data owner, and I want to specify this. IT doesn't own data. Surprise, surprise. IT may help the business, but the people who create the data are the data owners. It's their data, not my data as IT. And I'm going to push responsibility back to them. They should, at minimum, once a year, who should have access to the data, who shouldn't. If somebody wants access, they're the ones to approve it. Yes, we'll enable it, but we want the responsibility at the person who's creating the data. Then, let's build some audit policies. Let's verify that things are being worked the way they want to be done. Let's make sure that those claims are being done. Let's test our audit policies, and you can do that, delegation of control, so you can say, this person's going to create it, this person's going to verify it, this person's going to test it, this person's going to deploy it. Now, if it's only one person in the IT, surprise, surprise, same guy. But if you have a bigger environment, you can actually work it out that way. And then you add RMS to protect the data. By the way, if I want to send a message to Sue at Gmail, I can send an RMS message to her just as much as I can send it to Inside. One of the advantages of using Azure Active Directory RMS instead of internal RMS is that Azure knows anybody who's in Office 365, hey, guess what? We know how to talk back and forth, so the user doesn't see anything at all. It's just transparent to the user. And one of the nice things about using RMS is I'm sitting at my laptop, click on it, I'm going to digitally use RMS to protect my data. I go to another workstation. On that workstation, I don't have my keys, my public and private key that I'm using for RMS. When I log into the new one, the RMS server will say, oh, you don't have it. Let me give you in what we call lockbox or temporary memory space, those keys that you can use on that machine. So for those of you who are digital certificate people living in certificates and PKI, this is a really transparent way for users to work. I want to talk a couple of seconds about what we've talked about in this session before I pass it back. One, think about what your users are doing and make it easier for them by training them on what to do and what not to do. Get them used to calling the help desk or that key console. Don't have them call, well, I know if it's a problem, call Bill, and if it's this problem, call Sue. Get everybody funneling into one place. That way you can tell, is it one person having a problem or is it the whole company having a problem? Two, verify that your backups work properly. They're working efficiently, they're working correctly. Think about using digital signatures to protect from non-repudiated emails internally to your organization and externally to your organization. Think about building baselines for what your servers do. And then, last but not least, and I know it's a lot of work, but it'll pay off in the end, think about using rights management and all of the things that I've just talked about to start protecting your corporate data in a way that makes sense to protect your infrastructure. The bigger your infrastructure, the more work it is. The smaller, the least amount of work it is. But you know what? I always joke about this, and it's a comment I've used for years. I don't want anybody on this webinar to have a resume-generating event. I don't want you to be hacked in. And every single day, we hear of companies over and over who have had their environment penetrated. There's a line that John Chambers used and a lot of us have used. It's not when, it's not if, it's when you'll be penetrated or when you'll be hacked. So protecting yourself with these basic steps and additional training will help you. And with that, I'm going to pass it back to Mary.
Thanks, Jason. That was really very, very timely and informative. Let's just wait to switch over. Okay. So I just have a few more information before we go to our poll and our Q&A. So please log in those questions so Jay can answer them. Incidentally, Netcom is celebrating our 20th year in the business. As we celebrate our 20th anniversary to serve you with best-in-class IT and business certification training, we bring you unbeatable 20th year celebration offer this month to make your learning fantastic. We are offering up to 50% off on some of our popular courses. Let me just run through again the classes that we have lined up. I do apologize that we briefly had a loss of connection earlier. So here are some of the cybersecurity courses that you can sign up for. On the 19th of March, we have EC Council's CEH training. Also on the 19th, we have the CAP certification course, the CISSP training. On April 16, the Cybersecurity Analyst certification class on the 30th of April. We have the Security Plus Prep Bootcamp on the 30th as well. We have the CAS training on May 7 and the CIPP/G prep course that's going to be on May 24. Team training can also be customized and accelerated to meet your organization's specific needs. Contact us today to be connected to one of our learning consultants to help advise you on your specific needs. Email webinar@netcomlearning.com. Okay, technical skills are necessary to empower your career, but do you need to improve or upgrade your leadership skills as well as to accelerate your career? Along with your technical abilities, develop the skills you need to manage yourself, others, and business better. Welcome to Starter Learning, a collaborative knowledge platform bringing the world's best business and leadership insights from Fortune 1000 leaders, best-selling authors, and Ivy League professors. Further, if you're interested in learning from the top American leaders, please log on to the e-learning platform at www.sarderlearning.com and avail of the special promotion meant for first-time users. Use our coupon code SARDER10 and begin your leadership journey now. Now we're going to launch a quick poll to find out how many people might be interested in taking some additional training. Okay. In addition, we have a lot more informative webinars coming up. Please go to netcomlearning.com/webinars/ to register. Also, please follow our social media pages to get the latest technology updates. Please refer to the GoToWebinar chat window for the links. Now let's get to some of the questions. Okay. Is RMS protecting your files if someone steals them and tries to open outside of your domain? Jay, did you want to answer that?
Absolutely. So with RMS, I take a file, I encrypt the file, I can hand you the file, and if you're not on my list of approved people, you will not open up that file. Knock yourself out, have a great time. You're not opening up that file. So with RMS, only those people who have been granted permission, either a group of people or an individual person, at that moment in time, only those people can open up that file. And you can set when they can open it up. You can say every time they open it up, they have to re-authenticate, or they only have to open it once. Now, let me be very blunt about this. If you've opened up the file because I sent it to Mary, and Mary takes her cell phone, or Mary takes, the laptop to a copy machine, guess what? She's got the content. But other than doing that silly enough or writing down what's in it, Mary can't take the email or the document I gave her and forward it to David, and David can't open up that document. So only those people you give permission to and how you grant the permission have access to do that. And if you go into PowerPoint, you can actually show that, you can go into that setting, or in Word to go into that setting. So that lives inside of, if you go to File, Protect Presentation, Restrict Access, that's where you'll see that capability if you have RMS enabled.
Well, that's very interesting, Jay.
Go ahead. Do you want me to share the screen to show them that, or just
yes, please. That would be wonderful. I think we only have one, and while Jay is showing that, please feel free to log in other questions that you may have. Jay, did you want me to pass on the? Hang on, let me. Okay, I will do that.
Okay. So what I've done right now, here's the PowerPoint that I was just doing. I'm going to go to File. I'm going to go Protect, Restrict Access, and I'll do Restricted Access right here. And now I click here on Restrict Access to this permission, to this file. I'm going to pick who can read it, and I'll go j@ferrin.com. And at this point, I can read this document, but I can't change it, I can't print it, I can't copy the content. I can give a change permission, but I can come down here to More Options. And right now, okay, in the screen, I can say when the presentation, when this ends, whether I allow the user to copy the content, whether I allow other programs to do it. If they want additional privileges, they have to send me an email. I can do all of that right from here. And if I want to add extra functionality, I'll play right here, Add. I can add other users, and now I can go into my global catalog or to wherever I want to go to do it. And these templates, these drop-downs right here, when I go to protect this file, you can add custom views here of what you want to add. So I could add one for finance, one for something else. And with that, Mary, I'm going to pass it back to you.
That's a lot, Jay. I wish I could attend one of your, classes, full classes. Okay. So any final thoughts, Jay, that you want to share to our participants in regards to the topic today?
Folks, I want you to think about one very simple statement. It's going to happen. How bad it is up to you. If you got the training, great. If you need additional training, take the training, spend the time. Your bosses, the owners of your company, are worried about this happening. You've all heard in the news what happens when it does. Take the time now to prepare for what's going to happen. It's not when, it's if. And if you've done good due diligence and you've done the baselining, you've trained the users, then I jokingly say you're not as big a target as the next guy because your users will think and respond accordingly. And with that, hopefully we'll see you later on at some event somewhere.
Jay, Jay, don't say thank you. I think Marcine has one last question.
Sure.
I'm sorry, the questions are coming late. So it doesn't necessarily use Active Directory to determine if you're allowed to read, edit the file?
No. I can send that email to, when I sent email to j@ferrin.com, that was not an Active Directory user. That was my personal email. So I was sending to my personal email. I'm not on Active Directory. That's a Gmail account. So it doesn't have to use Active Directory. Obviously, inside our building, we'll use Active Directory, but it does not require Active Directory. For the end user, I use Active Directory inside my company to set up the infrastructure because it's a lot easier, but I can go out and I'm going to pick the name Ben. Ben has his own shop. He's a one-person shop. He has no email. He can actually get an RMS account using Microsoft Live as his credentialing service. So you could get RMS for one person, or you can implement it for an enterprise.
Okay, perfect. Thank you so much, Jay, for that. And with that, thank you all for participating and for bearing with us. If you do come with any additional questions, feel free to send them to webinar@netcomlearning.com at any time. We hope that you found today's webinar informative, and we look forward to seeing you back here with us soon. Feel free to tell your friends and colleagues about our webinars and other courses. Have a great day, everyone. And thank you, Jay.
Thank you, and have a great day all.